All right, everybody, it's time for your mailbag. And this week, we've got a lot of SummerSlam fallout. We've got the return of CM Punk, the return of Brock Lesnar, Becky Lynch. Certainly no shortage of news this week. Let's get the mailbag started right after a word from our sponsor, Dr. Bad Film. 100% go check these guys out if you're into bad movies.
Hello, wrestling fans. My name is James, and I'm from the podcast Dr. Bad Film. Like many people, one of my guilty pleasures is bad movies, and over on Dr. Bad Film, we take a look at some of the worst crimes against cinema. An episode you guys might find interesting is Season 1, Episode 10, where we look at the worst thing to happen in 2020, Money Plane, starring Adam Copeland, better known as Edge. If you like our podcast, maybe send it to that girl you matched with on Tinder, or to your boss without context. Let them know what you're about. Anyway, we'll let you get back to the episode.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
Alrighty, it is that time. Like I said, it is time to talk about what you guys want to talk about. And let's not waste any time in doing that and get right to our patrons who get the priority placement. And I'm going to start out with, the G-Man. Randy, you're on deck, I promise. Let's start out with the G-Man, who is on Patreon, obviously, and writes in and says, "Man, am I frustrated what they did to Bianca at SummerSlam. I was happy to see Becky back, but man, Bianca just got straight buried. She was so good as the SmackDown Women's Champion, and they did her dirty. So I guess now the story is Becky turns heel, and Bianca is going to face her at Extreme Rules. Now, the question is, if Sasha was there, I assume Sasha would have won the championship, and Becky would have come out after. Unfortunately, Sasha is out, and we had that mess. I just hate it so much for Bianca. She didn't deserve that, man. I'm pretty bummed." Okay, so you switch topics. I'll stop there. You're about halfway through your message here. Yeah, they did her dirty. And for what? Right? Well, what's the net positive here? Oh, they turned Becky heel, and nobody expected her to come back as a heel. Yeah, that's a bad move. I don't care if your logic is, well, nobody expected it. That's a very superficial logic. If you're going to tell me that's the big payoff, well, nobody expected it. Okay, and what's the goal here? We're going to have Becky as a heel work with Bianca. Then you have another heel Sasha. Like, where's your big baby face? Yeah, you have Bianca. So why, if Bianca's the baby face, the lead baby face on SmackDown, why not just put Becky on Raw? This made no sense. So again, it was very just mind-boggling, that whole segment. And you're probably right, G-Man. You're probably right about the fact that Sasha, if she was there, that she would have come out, won the championship, and Becky Lynch would have come back and dropped her and then challenged Sasha to the next pay-per-view. Probably yes. Yeah, that's probably what would have happened. But yeah, I was not happy about this. This was not a good move for anyone involved. So let's continue on. I'm pretty bummed 2K22 is now going to come out in March, probably because all the wrestlers they were releasing. I'm sure the developers in 2K aren't on good terms with WWE. Hopefully we have RK Bro in the game as a tag team, but I have a WrestleMania prediction that Randy Orton will turn on Riddle and they go one-on-one at WrestleMania. Yes. So first of all, yes, I think that is probably where they're going. But I'll actually be shocked if they go all the way to WrestleMania. WWE has little to no patience with teams. And I have a feeling that I don't know if they'll make it to WrestleMania. with this program. I mean, maybe Orton turns on Riddle at the February pay-per-view. So they have 2 months to build it. But that's a long time away. That's 6 months away till February. So, boy, that's a lot of RK Bro. Yeah, but perhaps it does work. I'm all for it. I love long-term stories, but I don't think WWE does. Or they don't have the patience for it or the discipline to stick to it. It's probably a better way to phrase it. But as far as 2K22, I'm a big wrestling game fan. Wrestling game fan. I said it right. And I was very surprised it's come out in March 2. I don't think we've ever had a March release for a 2K series. I know the WrestleMania 21 for the Xbox. I don't know how I'm remembering this. Did come out in March. It was right before WrestleMania. So perhaps that does line up nicely with their marketing, that it's going to be during the height of WrestleMania season that they're able to push out 2K22. I also don't know if it's the changes of the wrestlers, because as far as wrestlers leaving and that affecting game development, it's not hard to hit the delete button. It's pretty easy to hit the delete button more versus new stars coming in. So I don't think it's the fact that people are leaving, because it's easy to erase a character model that they've developed. It's more of if they're bringing people up, bringing people in, whatever it may be. Adding, not subtracting, I think would add more time. But I don't know what the cutoff was for their game development to put somebody in a game, even if they've been released. I don't know what that is. Contractually, I don't know. You would think the lead time or development time would be the cutoff of at least 6 months, 8 months. I don't know. But all right. Yeah, I'm a big 2K. Well, I'm a big wrestling fan, not 2K20. We all know what disaster that was. All right. So last thing, I have a bone to pick with Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. He says that Liv Morgan doesn't do anything for him and should be released. Nah, my friend. I totally disagree. She's someone to me that can be a major star in WWE, and I'm really frustrated she hasn't been on SmackDown since the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So I'm going on Twitter, and I'm going to put in the hashtag, #WeWantLiv. I'll get it trending one way or another. But all in all, I love hearing Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. Much love and take care all. Yeah, I do love hearing him too. Perhaps he will be on sooner than later. Perhaps. But I am very, honestly, I haven't even talked about Liv because there's been so much else going on. But the fact that she hasn't been on SmackDown since Money in the Bank is disturbing, especially when you consider the lack of depth of the women's division as it is, that you keep one of the bigger rising stars right now off TV. Doesn't make sense. Again, we don't know if it's creative. We don't know if it's COVID. We don't know if it's another issue, or they just simply don't have anything for her. I don't know. But I do miss Liv on a weekly basis, because she started to feel like she was gaining the all-important momentum. She did. She really did. She felt like she was gaining some traction. How about that for a word substitute? Traction's a better word. She did, though. She really felt like the fans were starting to get behind her. Live crowds are back. And she disappears into thin air. So I hope we don't see her future endeavored. I know Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan would strongly disagree, but G-Man, I'm on your side. I am. Alrighty. Thank you. And Randy, let's get to you, buddy. Let's get to you here. All right. Randy the patron here. Yes. Yes, it is. First, just warning you that this is going to be a little negative. No problem. I mean, I literally have not read a word outside of just right now. So, fine. Sometimes it's deserving. And I know people are a constant complaint, not on this podcast per se, but in general, that wrestling podcasts are too negative. But sometimes it's deserving. We don't do it just for attention here. We do it when it's real. So, all right, Randy, let's get on here. I'm so happy Alexa is fighting Charlotte, assuming for the belt. Thank God, because I don't care how good Charlotte is. I don't want the title on her, for God's sakes. Give it to someone else. Everyone puts down Alexa with the doll, but yet there is a dinosaur in AEW. Give me a break. They're actually praising the dinosaur. Seriously? But Nikki ASH is so bad. She's more believable than a dinosaur. I'm sorry. All right, Randy, I have to say one thing here, though. I know who you're talking about, right? Luchasaurus in AEW. However, he doesn't actually pretend to be a dinosaur. He doesn't go around and start roaring like a dinosaur or saying he's almost a dinosaur. He wears it as part of his outfit, and he doesn't bring it down to a cartoon level. That's the difference. It doesn't look like he purchased it at Spirit Halloween down the street. And it's just accepted that he wears it, and he's a legitimately badass athlete who's he's a big man. 6'5", whatever he may be, 6'6", maybe higher. And that's the difference. He doesn't turn it into a caricature of himself. And again, I have watched AEW only the last couple of weeks. I actually just watched part of Dynamite and CM Punk's promo, where I've got more to say about that. Not on this show, but in future shows, and maybe even on TikTok. Go follow me on TikTok, guys. I meant to tell you that. I just put it on my Wrestling Nostalgia show, but on TikTok, follow me at the WWE Podcast. Why? I don't do dancing. I don't do twerks. I don't do trends. I'm not running up milk cartons or making milk carton towers. That's the new trend, by the way. People are like making milk carton structures and running across them and injuring themselves. I don't do any of that, but I do talk wrestling. And I started the last couple of days, doing videos where I am watching returns of Brock and Punk, and you get to watch it with me. And I comment on it and so forth. So sorry, Randy, I know I'm getting sidetracked here, but I wanted to plug that because I don't normally ever talk about TikTok on here because it's normally used for other purposes. But I'm starting to dive into that a little bit more because it's a massive. I mean, if you're not on TikTok, I don't know why, especially if you're a marketing or you're a content creator, because it's got hundreds of millions of users. It's insane. So I don't want to hear, it's only for, I'm not a 13-year-old girl doing content. No. No, you're missing the point. All right. As I argue with myself, I'm sorry, Randy. Let's get back on track. But I get your point about Luchasaurus. I understand, but it's not the same thing. They're doing something different with the doll. The doll is pretending to wink. That actually didn't happen. And Nikki is, as you said, I don't think she's more believable. I think she's more pathetic. I'm sorry. Nikki's character is god awful. We have to differ there, Randy. It's all right. Let's move on. Yes, AEW is a good show, and CM Punk definitely made the needle move, but only 1.1 million. Sorry, but SmackDown gets close to 2 if I'm mistaken. Need to do better. Well, let me just drop some numbers on you there, Randy. And I see what you're saying, but you can't compare SmackDown to AEW and say, well, they didn't beat SmackDown. I never thought they would have beaten SmackDown. WWE is a much more established company. They've been around for, my God, decades and decades and decades and decades. So that's not what you should be comparing. What you should be comparing is AEW's week over week numbers and percentage of increase. So why don't we do that? Why don't we do the comparison here? And this may give you a little bit more of a perspective of the impact that CM Punk's return had, at least for that single night. We'll have to see how long his return actually impacts the ratings. As we all know, the first week is usually the highest, and then it levels off. It declines and then levels. So we'll have to see where that actual watermark lands and not just look at the high watermark. I'll be shocked if it continues to increase. I'll be happy for them, but that's not usually how things go. So, but nonetheless, Randy, I want to give you a week over week percentage and numbers increase here so that we're not looking at just, it's AEW versus SmackDown. No. That's apples and oranges. So here we go. So Rampage, we're going to go Rampage to Rampage. We're not going to do Dynamite, obviously, because Rampage is the secondary show. Rampage, the week before on August 13th, did about 740,000 viewers. Okay. On August 20th, the CM Punk debut, Rampage did 1.1 million, as you said, roughly 1.1 million and change. Now, you may say 740,000 to 1.1 million. It's a 53% increase. They just got a 53% bump in ratings. You tell me somebody on WWE programming that can move the needle at that percentage of a return. I don't care who they bring back. Even Stone Cold would not, I don't think Stone Cold would bump the ratings that much. There has never been in my lifetime a anticipated return like CM Punk. Never. You could argue The Rock when he went to Hollywood and they came back in 2011 on Valentine's Day and hosted WrestleMania to face John Cena, and that program lasted a year. Yeah, that was certainly a big moment. But I can't tell you when there has been a bigger anticipated return than CM Punk. So, Randy, I got to say, my friend, you can't compare SmackDown. You got to compare AEW to AEW. They're also on, different networks and so forth. You can't look at it that way. So 53%, buddy. 53%. All right, let's move on. So if I find my spot here. Now, WTF is wrong with everyone. Obviously, they didn't plan that with Becky. Pretty sure it was a last-second positive test of COVID is why Sasha was out, so they just changed it last second. That's my thought too, buddy. I think. Although I'm mad it happened, but how it did. But now we have a great rivalry between Belair and Becky, who is a heel in my mind. Again, we'll have to see the follow-up on SmackDown. The follow-up is key here. Before Becky left, they were booing her. Yes, they were. Or starting to. No, why not make her a heel? She'll be great. Yeah, I agree she'd be a great heel, but why not ride this massive babyface train that could generate TV ratings, it could generate a ton of merchandise? Why are they shooting themselves in the foot? Are they going that all in on Bianca Belair? She's a great talent, but man, you are really taking everything and putting it in one big basket and hoping that Bianca becomes the next, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't understand why they would do that. At least ride it for a few months and then turn her heel. Doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to me. I know what you're saying, but I don't know. All right. Now, Matt, I know you hate or dislike the way Ray and Dom talk, saying pop and some, but I'm pretty sure that's how people talk now, or at least maybe their culture. Who knows? But I agree with you. Dom needs to turn. I've never heard it ever. Okay. I have never heard it ever. I'm pretty sure it's not a cultural thing. You can say mom and dad. Like when I'm here's the difference. Okay. When you're a child, you still call your mom. When you're an adult, you still call your mom or dad, whatever. I was never, ever called son. No, but that's the bigger issue I have is not so much him calling him pop or pops. Fine. Like that's a little bit, I guess, I don't know. Say he can't say dad. I don't know why, but whatever. It's the bigger issue that Ray calls Dominic son. Nobody calls their son. It's not a thing. I'm pretty sure it's not cultural. It's anyway. All right. Last thing. But yeah, he does need to turn. I want to see Dom turn. Make him interesting. Making Brock and Roman together makes no sense to me because Roman is the champ. But what belt would Brock have? Maybe that's where Brock versus Bobby happens once Bobby is done with Sheamus. Okay, sorry, this is long. I know I had to get some things off my chest, Randy. Yes, Randy. Man, oh man, we disagree on a lot of stuff here. It's cool. It's fun. I don't want everyone to agree with me all the time, and I don't want to agree with everybody all the time. So nothing wrong with a little healthy disagreement. But I like Roman and Brock together. I do. But I hear your concern because why would you have Roman just be champion where Brock is what? Just his lackey and he doesn't care about the championship? So I'm with you. The only way I'd want them to be together is if there's no championship involved other than the tag team championship if they want it. Or you have one of them become Intercontinental, the other one's a world champion. Right? But you can't have one as world champion and the other one doesn't care about the championship because then it would look like one's a lackey to the other and you don't want that. You want them on equal footing. So I think it would be just awesome to see them together where the fear in the locker room, at least in storyline, the fear of the guys in the locker room of, oh my God, you can hear the announcers, oh my God, what did we just see? There's no way. There's no way. You can't tell me these two are going to join forces. You could hear it and see it. and the fear quivering in the announcer's voice, and then saying, who in the hell could stop these two? And they just run roughshod, do whatever they want to anyone at any time. Imagine it. Because we've seen Brock and Roman many, many times. So it's going to happen again. Fine. But more interestingly, I want to see these two join forces with Paul Heyman as the straw that stirs the drink. I want to see that. So I don't know if we'll see it, though. I don't know. As far as Bobby goes, Brock and Bobby has to happen. I just don't know when either. But okay, guys, thank you so much for your contributions this week. Let's get to, let's see. Aha. Wow. Okay, Mr. DJ Kuzmo. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. I got another great patron of the show. Before you hear my negative Becky Lynch voice recording from this past SummerSlam, I have some positive thoughts to share from the 3-day wrestling weekend that we experienced from Rampage to Sunday's NXT TakeOver 36. Okay, here we go. Walter versus Dragunov, Part 2 from NXT TakeOver. This match was incredible from start to finish. Walter and Dragunov were punishing each other to their limits. This match was the follow-up from last year's first encounter between both wrestlers, where Walter had the upper hand and won the match to continue his long title reign. Before this match took place this Saturday, Walter had an unbelievable NXT UK title reign for 870 days. This is probably the longest title reign in the modern era of pro wrestling. I would agree. I predicted that Dragunov would win this match at 36 and finally gain the title from Walter. The match itself had an old school vibe to it, and both Walter and Dragunov were hitting chop after chop after chop against each other, and Dragunov was mercilessly getting the brunt of most of Walter's chops to the chest. And the more I saw Dragunov getting those hard chops to the chest from Walter, the more I grew to respect Dragunov for withstanding those hits. With that being said, after enduring 25 plus minutes of hard-hitting action, Dragunov gets the win and becomes the new United States new NXT UK champion. The question I got is, what's next for Walter? Does he go automatically to the main roster, or does he stay on NXT UK or join NXT here in the States? Okay. Disclaimer. I do not watch NXT on a regular basis, so it's hard for me to answer this, and I'm going to probably pawn it off to Zach. So what I want you to do, DJ, hit this question to Zach on Twitter, okay? Because I will sound like a total just phony if I try to answer this. That said, I have heard, this is the only answer I can give, it's the only information I have, is that Walter does not have any interest in coming to the States, that he wants to stay in the UK. I have heard that. And I've heard that from several credible wrestling sites that we all know, we all love, we all know who they are. That is the only thing I've heard. So I would say, based on that, which is extremely limited knowledge and maybe outdated, that no, Walter does not want to go to the States and he wants to stay in the UK. Plus, I can probably say with confidence that NXT UK needs the star power, right? You would think that they'd want to have a foundational piece there. So that's all I can say about it before I start to sound stupid, DJ. So I'm going to pawn that to Zach Smith. So hit him up on Twitter. Okay. By the way, hit me up too on Twitter at wrestling_audio. Your next topic. Ponytail Brock is back. Brock is back. Brock is back. Brock is finally back. After being seen at last year's WrestleMania, losing his title, the WWE title, to Drew, we were all speculating if or when Brock would return. Plus, when he would eventually return, we all wanted Brock to be Bobby's next opponent for the WWE title after Bobby dismantled Goldberg at SummerSlam. With that being said, Brock did return at this year's SummerSlam, but it was after the Roman Reigns versus Cena title match, not the Bobby versus Goldberg match that we all expected to happen. However, when Brock returned, I literally lost my mind and started chanting, "Holy you know what," several times. And I pinched myself because I thought it wasn't real. Surprisingly, the crowd gave Brock a huge pop, and probably the loudest pop of the night, I would agree. Yes, it was louder than Becky's. Yes, it was louder than Edge's, as you said. It was, not saying something. But they screwed up Becky's return, I got to say. They screwed it up big time. With that being said, to be honest, I think Vince had to do this Brock return as a response or a clapback to AEW's CM Punk debut to quote unquote send the fans home happy. Who would have thought that a Brock Lesnar return would save this roller coaster of a SummerSlam pay-per-view? I tweeted that out too. I'm not giving myself credit. I just remember tweeting it out at the end of the pay-per-view saying Brock may have single-handedly saved this pay-per-view. And it's true, because I don't think SummerSlam was a well-received pay-per-view as a whole. There were some bright spots. Edge and Rollins were really good, right? But the Brock may have saved it single-handedly after just a complete F-up of Becky's return. I mean, that was a disaster. But here's the thing. Do I think that WWE did this as a response to CM Punk's debut, knowing it was coming? Yes, I do. At least it was a contributing factor and weighed into the equation. It may not have been the only factor in them bringing Brock back. I mean, WWE knew that CM Punk was going to AEW. They knew. Because from what I've understood, they didn't even offer anything to Punk, which is really stupid on their part. Not that Punk would have come to WWE, but it just shows their ignorance and ego that they wouldn't even offer him that type of, or even offer him to come back to the company. But that said, I don't think it was the only contributing factor, but I think it was a big one. A big one. So now let's get to the stare down between Brock and Roman. At first, I thought that Brock and Roman were going to acknowledge each other and form some sort of alliance with the Paul Heyman to form a 2021 two-man power trip. But then looking at Paul's fearful expressions, you know automatically that Brock did not come to join Roman. Now, let's peel back. Could you imagine a world where Brock and Roman joined forces, ran rampant on both Raw and SmackDown? Let's say Brock returns to Raw, challenges Bobby Lashley for the WWE title and wins it from him, and Roman continues his title defenses as the Universal Champion on SmackDown. Could you imagine Paul Heyman working double duty on Raw or SmackDown? Could you imagine what the ratings would be for both shows? Okay. I don't know if Paul Heyman's going to do double duty. I wish I could see SmackDown this week first before I answer this, because I want to see what path Heyman takes. Is he going to take the path of, oh boy, I feel like I've deceived Brock and joined Roman? I mean, I don't know how he can take that place, because Brock's the one that left for a year and a half. But what's Paul Heyman going to do? Leave just because Brock did? So here's the thing. I don't think that ratings would be super high. I think they would be elevated, especially that Brock is back. I'm sure that those ratings, especially this coming week on SmackDown, will probably be one of the higher weeks that we've seen in 6 to 12 months in terms of ratings, because of Brock Lesnar returning. So, and the interest in the follow-up to that, and Becky Lynch. It's very interesting they took Brock and Becky and put them both on SmackDown here. Very interesting. And when Raw is the one that really needs some help. But I don't know if Paul Heyman would work double duty, and it's hard for me to answer that without seeing the follow-up of where they're going to go. I have concerns about Brock Lesnar on a promo level of where he would be able to perform, because he's never proven he can be really good on the mic. But does he need to be? He's not a rising star. He's not somebody that he's in development, and hopefully they'll be able to, give him a chance someday. Let's just see what you got, kid. Brock's on a different level. I don't know if he really needs to speak. He can just say a few words, a couple of sentences, and just wreak havoc. So maybe they're going to lean on that, because Brock is very limited on the mic. But boy, oh boy, his body language and in-ring is fantastic. So, but I don't know about again, I just talked about this in a previous email. I don't know if they're going to really do a two-man power trip here. I would love it, but they can't do it on separate. You can't have a 2021 version of a two-man power trip with two guys on two separate shows. They'd have to be on the same show. So I would love it, and the ratings would show it. I think it'd be a very steady increased rating, maybe like a 5-10% increase in rating, I would think. So, all right. But now let's come back to reality. In this scenario, keeping Roman as the heel makes perfect sense, because Roman is doing a great job as the heel that he is, and as the quote-unquote tribal chief head of the table. Now let's talk about Brock. Brock as the babyface is very different to what we would normally see him as in a character portrayal. The last time Brock was hooked as a babyface, you got to go back to 2002 when Heyman screwed Brock at Survivor Series when he interfered and caused Brock to lose the title to The Big Show. I do remember that. And then Paul Heyman joined forces with The Big Show. At the time, and in retrospect, I didn't understand why creative would have Paul turn on Lesnar when he was the one that made Lesnar a star. But I don't want to go into that deep rabbit hole on that. See, talking wrestling, there's rabbit holes everywhere. It's impossible not to fall into one. So I have to say this, DJ. I don't think that's the last time Brock was booked as a babyface. I believe when Brock Lesnar faced Seth Rollins when he was part of the Authority, he was also booked as a babyface when he destroyed J&J Security. So that's just one example that comes to mind. But outside of that, I mean, the majority of his career, he has been a heel, no doubt. And I think he's better as a heel, honestly. But babyface Brock's fun too, because you just want to see him destroy crap. So, all right. But I do remember that with the Big Show. Yes. And then he tried to get his hands on Heyman and finally did, gave him an F5. But I will say this one thing, one little story time here in relation to that story about Brock and him being turned on by Heyman. I was in an arena for the SmackDown. I think it was just after this had happened. Brock cut a really bad promo on the mic because he didn't have Heyman because he just was turned. Heyman just turned on him. They ended up cutting that out of the entire show because it was so bad. It was taped. It wasn't a live SmackDown back then. So Brock just never has been really good on the mic. So it's not his thing. It's not his thing. So the Brock and Roman promos should be fun, I guess, especially with Heyman. All right, let's continue on here. I'm intrigued to see what happens this Friday on SmackDown between Lesnar and Roman. And of course, Paul Heyman has to explain himself. Do you see this potential feud title match at Extreme Rules pay-per-view, or do they leave it for Crown Jewel in October since Saudi loves their legends and big names? No. So, yes. So I hope they do it at Extreme Rules. I don't think anyone in the States gives two blanks about Crown Jewel. It's one of those pay-per-views we all have to suffer through because it's just no disrespect to Saudi Arabia and their fans. It's just a pay-per-view that is outside of the norm here. It's like the Saudi prince's playground. He just gets to make these dream matches, writes a check that has many, many zeros on it, and WWE complies. I really hope they don't do it at Crown Jewel and they do it at a pay-per-view that actually in the States has meaning, and in the UK and I think most fans. So anyway, okay. Moving on. Edge finally wins. Congratulations to Edge for finally winning a singles match at a pay-per-view this year. This was my favorite and best match from SummerSlam as a much-needed win for Edge so that he could probably take some time off and come back either for Survivor Series or next year's Royal Rumble. Rollins, on the other hand, has a bone to pick with the winner of the Roman Cena title match because Seth did mention that he wants a title opportunity after SummerSlam, so this feud may happen. But then what about Finn Balor, who has been off TV for almost 3 weeks? Hopefully we see Finn start to insert himself back into the Universal title picture or feud with Seth Rollins while Roman is feuds with Brock Lesnar. Yeah, I think Finn... Yeah, Finn's an interesting guy. He just kind of like came and went, didn't he? We haven't seen him in a few weeks. I don't know. It's bizarre how people come and go. Anyway, back to Edge. I liked how Edge dug deep into his wrestling roots when he used the Brood's entrance music. That was awesome. It would be interesting to see if that Edge decides to turn heel next year, that he probably creates a Brood-like faction. I guess in this family-oriented style of WWE, it probably wouldn't work, and everyone loves babyface Edge. I've been advocating for Edge to turn heel at some point before he calls it a career. I love babyface Edge too, but eventually we're going to, and Edge too is going to kind of stray away from the feel-good return of Adam Copeland and descend into his dark character and stay there and be the ultimate opportunist and just be that disgusting SOB that he can be. Slimy. Edge can be really good as a heel. So I hope they do too. And I think him creating a faction would be cool. I don't know if he'd be a Brood-like faction. I think that, that would be kind of... I don't think that using the Brood from a group that was in the 90s would be original. I want him to maybe create his own stable that helps elevate new stars. And I think he would too. He would love to be able to help new guys, get the rub. And it's how the wheels move around, guys. Just keeps on going. So I agree. Alrighty. RK Bro, new tag champs. Congratulations to the new Raw Tag Team Champions and RK Bro. From watching this match and seeing them get a big pop from the crowd, I'm really invested in this tag team, and I hope to see that creative utilize them more and not sparingly like what they did to AJ and Omos after WrestleMania. Yeah, they took him off TV for 4 weeks. AJ needs another singles run for a major title, or he could win the Royal Rumble next year. But whatever the case, maybe AJ needs to insert himself back into a major title contention, because we don't know how many more active years of AJ Styles we have in the WWE. You're right. We don't. And I've been advocating for this too. I know that the tag team division is thin as it is, but you also have RK Bro. Who are they going to work with? AJ and Omos are good opponents. So I think probably in the next couple of months, we'll see AJ stray away. I'd definitely say before Rumble, AJ's back on his own. I'm going to confidently say that, because I want to see one more run before he hangs it up too. I don't think AJ has a whole lot left. I don't. Maybe a few good years, maybe 2. So, okay. Last but not least, CM Punk is back. 7 years, 7 long years. We've been waiting and anticipating for Punk to return to pro wrestling, and now he's finally back. AEW did a great job in giving slight teases of Punk to AEW to debut in AEW, and for him to start off Rampage cutting an unscripted promo as the crowd and everyone at home were chomping at the bit to hear Cult of Personality play, and to finally see Punk step foot in a wrestling ring. It brought a slight tear to my eye to see Punk back, and watching his debut on AEW several times back on YouTube brought back some good memories of him winning Money in the Bank when he created the Straight Edge Society with Serena Deeb and Festus, a.k.a. Luke Gallows, the feuds that he had with Rey Mysterio, Jeff Hardy, John Morrison, John Cena, and other memories that I can't quite remember. Anyway, I'm proud that CM Punk is all elite, and I don't know about y'all, but not only am I planning to buy his shirt, but I'm also planning to order the AEW All Out pay-per-view to see his first match back in pro wrestling against Darby Allin. What a time to be a wrestling fan. Best regards, DJ Kuzmo. P.S. My voice recording of my much anticipated Becky Lynch rant from SummerSlam is attached to this message piece. Okay. Yeah, we'll get to your voicemail when we get to voicemails in just a few minutes, DJ. It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, I was very emotional during this. I've dissected this many times now. I had a great conversation with Zach Smith and Mimi Burris the night that he returned, in a very rare appearance for me on an AEW review show. But I think CM Punk's going to bring a lot of eyeballs to AEW. And not just for him, but for the product as a whole, for the brand as a whole. CM Punk's value goes beyond just himself. It stretches to and rubs into the product, to the brand of AEW. That's the key, because CM Punk will come and go. He will eventually leave pro wrestling for good and call it a career. But what he's going to leave behind is AEW itself. AEW, for all intents and purposes, is not going anywhere. AEW will outlive anybody or everyone right now in that ring. So I think you're right. As far as buying the t-shirt, yes, I'm on board with that too. I'm just about to. I keep saying I'm gonna, and I just don't check out. I'm an idiot. But I also am going to plan on ordering All Out too. And I do not order AEW pay-per-views. So yeah, this is going to be fun. CM Punk. We're doing exactly what was likely discussed when Punk was going to come back. That you're going to see TV ratings spike, you're going to see merchandise spike, you're going to see the pay-per-views buy rates spike, and Punk is a big contributor to that. He's a big reason for it. So, all right, DJ, thank you for all that time you took and for the effort you put into your emails. I got to say, it's pretty impressive. All right, let's see here. Dennis writes in, he says, Dennis O'Brien, hello guys. The last time I can remember a sword being used in a storyline was many years ago when the Berserker tried to stab the Undertaker. Karrion Kross is being, maybe. I don't remember that, so I'll take your word for it. Karrion Kross is being treated like a piece of blank. Why? Yeah, I don't know, dude. And his new outfit, his new gear, people are just destroying. I gotta say, people are not happy with his gladiator look. They are not. All right, let's see. There were some enjoyable matches at SummerSlam, 4 in a total of 10. They brought Becky Lynch back because Sasha wasn't available for some reason. Maybe COVID. Yeah, that's kind of what we're all speculating. I hope everything's okay. Punk returning to an actual wrestling company was amazing. I'm getting pissed off wasting 3 hours of my important time on watching Raw, and I'm sending this email after watching the Raw after SummerSlam. What a piece of crap episode of Raw. Boring, annoying, and frustrating. I could put my time in other stuff. As a very busy chef, I'm pissed off because I have very little time to spare. On my break, I watch wrestling and I watch Raw. I'm done with Raw. Sorry for my rant. Wow, Dennis, you are not a happy man right now at WWE. So perhaps watch AEW. I mean, they are a palate cleansing brand. Watching them is like watching what wrestling should be. They're just easy to understand. Not everything's perfect. And again, I haven't been watching very long. I'm just starting to get into it a little bit. I'm a bit of a noob. So, all right, Dennis. Well, take a breath and try to relax. All righty. Let's see here. We've got, another new. Yeah, this was sent on Monday, August 23rd. Okay, making sure I wasn't diving into last week's emails. Sam writes in and he says, "Hey Matt, Sam from Michigan here. I want to dive right into some thoughts on SummerSlam. What they did to Bianca Belair is criminal. It's straight up disrespectful. To get squashed like that for a cheap pop, which they already got, but just by having Becky return is trash. Couple that with a bait and switch with the likes of which I've never seen, and honestly, I'm just disappointed. Maybe talks about this regularly on an AEW show about WWE's lack of long-term storytelling, and this was all the proof I needed. Are you okay with the way Becky's return was handled? I heard or read the original plan was her to turn heel in October after this Belair Banks program. Well, whatever happened with Banks, creative made the pivot immediately." Well, Sam, I'm sure you've heard my thoughts on this already, so I don't want to rehash it. I'm not a fan of the heel turn so soon. It's not good for business. It's just not. I don't know why they don't just ride the wave of merchandise and sold out buildings and cheering. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Okay. I can't wait to watch RK Bros run as champions. I'm buying one of those shirts for sure, and the match wasn't bad in my opinion either. I know they'll break up eventually, and when it happens, it will be refreshing to see Riddle make the heel turn. I remember countless turns by Orton in the mid-2000s. Do you see a long run for these two, given how thin the division is? I see a long run. I guess it depends on how you define long. Long in WWE's eyes is 3 months. 3 months or more is a long run. I think the long-term plan, I would like them to see to go to Mania where Orton turns on Riddle and then they have a match at WrestleMania. But I could also see where Orton turns on Riddle in November and then it goes to, or December, and then it goes to a Royal Rumble match with those two. But I do think that they definitely turn, and I'd like to see Riddle as a heel too. We've seen the Randy Orton turn 100 times. So Riddle as a heel would be fun. Okay. Where am I here? Oh, it was a shame Roman Reigns put the quote unquote "I'll retire" stipulation on the match on the go home episode of SmackDown. But it was still entertaining as hell. Yeah, I agree, because that definitely solidified that Roman's not going anywhere, right? Like that was a telltale sign. I got caught up in it a few times to the point where I bid on a few of their near falls. That's absolutely a compliment. The Lesnar bombshell was crazy, but let's be real. We could probably thank CM Punk's AEW debut for that one. Maybe WWE, quote unquote, wasn't interested in Punk, but it was only because, after hearing the rumors, they hastily put a deal together for Brock. Again, we'll never know the truth. I just answered that with DJ. I said that, look, it probably wasn't the only factor, but it was a big one. So, no doubt. Vince does not want to be one-upped. He wants to be the brand that everyone's talking about at the end of the weekend. He gets to have the final say because he's the show on after AEW, and he's saying, hey, you want to show me your ace? I'll show you mine. All right? So, that's just called competition. But hey, Vince doesn't think AEW is competition, so what am I talking about? All right. I can't stop laughing about Goldberg. An injury stoppage? If you're WWE creative, imagine telling on yourself like that. And his sell on MVP's ringside attack was terrible. I was embarrassed for him. Yeah, that's true. Easily the worst part of the night, and I'd like to quickly forget it. Was Goldberg properly shamed and embarrassed in your opinion? And for what I understand, we will now have one more match on his current deal. Is that correct? Here's what I understand. Goldberg had a multi-year deal with WWE with two matches per year on it. I believe he still has a year or two left on his contract. I think maybe 1 year left. That's my understanding. So I don't think that Goldberg was properly embarrassed. From even as embarrassing as the injury was, that he's the way he sold it. I think what would be the best is when the fans have a say in the Goldberg character, meaning if he continuously gets booed, if the booing is more consistent and louder, that will be the needle mover for Goldberg as far as maybe changing into a heel or whatnot, or just going away completely. So Alexa Bliss's current gimmick is just store brand Harley Quinn. I love the effort she puts into it, and her performance makes it bearable, but it seems like someone in the office saw Birds of Prey once and went to work the next day with a Harley Quinn costume, called up Alexa Bliss, and called it good. I know she had connections to Bray, but I wasn't watching WWE at that point. Am I way off the mark here? Has Bray Wyatt's absence or departure caused her character to go this route? At this point, I see Margot Robbie when her music hits. Okay. Look, Alexa Bliss is doing the best with a character that has really just gone stale. And that's not unheard of. That's normal. I mean, Alexa Bliss was hot when she was with The Fiend. She was getting praise from everyone. I didn't hear a bad thing about her when she was with The Fiend, keeping the storyline alive between Bray and Randy leading into WrestleMania. And I was praising her too, but there's a shelf life with everything. And she just now feels like an extension of a tree that no longer exists. So I don't know what it is or where this ends for Alexa. Again, maybe somebody finds her kryptonite and changes her back into the goddess, and she just pretends this never happened. I don't know. But there is something that needs to give with Alexa at some point. But I got to give her credit for making the best out of a kind of an awkward situation. So no doubt. I saw your tweet about Moist TV and Xavier Woods, and I'm glad I'm not the only one who realized it was a long-winded ad for Pure Life. My wife and I were watching the segment and thinking, this can't be an advertisement, right? And they just kept going back to the logo, at which point we sadly came to the conclusion, as you say, WWE is a for-profit business, I guess. Yeah, they are. They are a for-profit business, but sometimes the sacrifice of the talent being involved in a long, essentially infomercial isn't worth the price you pay. I'm sure Pure Life paid a pretty good chunk of change to be featured for however many minutes they were on screen at SummerSlam. That was also a big downer of the night. And then people getting shot with squirt guns. It was awful. It was awful. As always, thanks for the entire team's tireless efforts, and I'll talk to you later. P.S. I attached a meme I saw shortly after SummerSlam went off the air. Given that the Mysterios appeared earlier in the evening and Brock Lesnar returned, I'll just say, who else remembers the custody of Dominic match? Yes. Oh, and what I got sent was, because you guys obviously can't see it, it's a photo that looks like it's a kind of a marketing match for Brock versus Roman, with Paul Heyman crying in the middle, and it's a custody of Paul Heyman ladder match. That's hilarious. I'm downloading this. This is good stuff. Really good stuff. I don't know where you found this. It's awesome. So I'm downloading it right now. All right. I know I didn't describe it very funnily, but it's great. It's great. I'll tweet it out later. So thank you so much, Sam, for the effort that you put into the email and contributing this week. Alrighty, my voice is starting to go here, but I don't have too many more emails before we get to voicemails. Let's see how many we got here. Who else? Who else could contribute? other than the casual wrestling fan. So let's get to his email, and then we'll get to voicemails. All right, here we go. So Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan writes in. He says, "It's the leader of the casual wrestling fan crew, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. I'm getting straight to the point. Acknowledge him. Roman Reigns is on another level. This didn't get talked about much 2 weeks ago on SmackDown. Roman Reigns destroyed John Cena in the face-off promo. Before some of you say no, just go rewatch the promo. Roman had John frustrated from the beginning. Roman kept baiting John. John wanted Roman to respond, but he would just say, 'Come on, John, really hurt me.' The way he was smiling at John, John was perplexed. Then Roman started his attack. He destroyed John without breaking kayfabe or telling on the business. He, most importantly, told the truth. I thought we were going to get something new. Nope, same old Cena. He didn't take away from John or try to bury John. He even said John is good enough to win the WWE Championship, but not the Universal Championship. And let's not forget the best promo line of 2021. Quote unquote, 20 years of missionary might have been good enough for you, but it wasn't enough for Nikki Bella. Yeah, that was pretty yikes. Look at John's face in that moment. He was defeated. He was hurt. And after that, John was flustered. He was mad. And what did John do? He tried to bury Roman, gave away the business, and said that Roman almost destroyed Seth's career and ran a current AEW star off to WWE. Or off WWE. And had the nerve to say Roman is the most protected superstar and Roman still isn't over, which are lies. And let's not forget how many times John said 1, 2, 3. John had a bad promo and Roman Reigns destroyed the most unbeatable in the mic of John Cena. Yeah. I don't know if destroyed is the right adjective to use. Perhaps holding his own is a better way to phrase it. Roman still doesn't have, outside of one-liners, he doesn't have the promo delivery that John Cena does. Let's put it that way. And perhaps this was by design. Do we ever think of that? You know, we all knew what happened in 2017 when it was a clear just slaughter of Roman Reigns. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was like me getting out there with John Cena. It was embarrassing. And perhaps they knew this time around that it would not be in their best interest to have John Cena do what he did and to have Roman get a little bit of a retort and to have Roman look the best he can in a scenario where his weaknesses are exposed. So perhaps it was designed that way. If it wasn't, and it was just, hey guys, go out, do what you want, say what you want, or at least hit these bullets. Otherwise, you guys fill in the rest. If that's the case, then Roman did a decent job. He did, and that the line of the night about the missionary wasn't enough for Nikki. That was good. I'll give you that. And that was really good. And John was not at his best. Talking about Rollins and Ambrose, Roman had nothing to do with them leaving. You're right. Roman had nothing to do with them leaving. It was the connection didn't make sense at all. I'm with you. So, I would encourage everyone to go back and rewatch it too. It wasn't John Cena's best work. Certainly not. John Cena's one. And by the way, John Cena calling Roman Reigns young man. Can we stop that? Can we stop calling Roman Reigns a young man? At least when John Cena speaks about him as if he's some kind of father figure or elder to John Cena or to Roman Reigns. Like, can we stop? I think it diminishes Roman Reigns when he's trying to call him young man. We're beyond that. Roman Reigns is not a young man anymore. You know, he's not a rookie anymore. John Cena is the elder statesman that hasn't been there in a very long time in a regular full-time capacity anyway. So, okay. John Cena is one of the most protected superstars of the 2000 and 2010s. Speaking of, didn't John Cena beat the Nexus or the Shield, or was it both? John Cena did beat the Nexus, yes. He beat the Nexus 1 by 1, and that's what he said his plan was going to be, and then he finally got to Wade Barrett and literally buried him in a pile of chairs that were hanging above the ceiling. I think it was the TLC pay-per-view, and literally buried Wade Barrett, and that was the end of the Nexus. So, yeah, John Cena figuratively and literally buried them. The Shield, I don't think he did. I'd have to go back and watch that. I don't think he quote unquote buried the Shield, but also you gave The Miz a lot of flack for not changing his gimmick. But what about John Cena? ECW One Night Stand, RVD versus John Cena. The crowd was chanting same old blank. You know what I mean? And that was over 15 years ago, but he has the same gimmick. If anyone is in desperate need of a makeover, it's John Cena. The Rock has changed his gimmick to a heel movie star guy. The Undertaker evolved and changed his gimmick multiple times. Hell, the ultimate face of the 80s and early 90s, Hulk Hogan, changed to Hollywood Hogan. What's John's excuse? Well, John's excuse is that he can, and WWE can say that he's the one guy that never changed and was true to himself, right? Because if he changes, his whole slogan, his whole words he lives by, hustle, loyalty, and respect, goes by the wayside. And he looks like a fraud, at least in the eyes of maybe WWE and John. That's how he lives. Like that's how he is. And he has said it many times in his promos that the people want me to change the content of my character. But perhaps the legacy of John Cena will be that he never strayed from who he is and wants to be. And that's himself, that he never had to change to be successful. And, you know, John is one of the very few, if the only one, that has not changed. And yet he has reached the levels of success he has. Isn't that a credit to John Cena? Isn't that a credit that he didn't have to change and still reach mega star levels, Mount Rushmore of wrestling levels? You know, isn't that a just impressive that he didn't have to change who he was, turn heel, whatever? And wrestling is all about adaptability. But if John is, I don't want to say he's above adaptability and evolution, but for him to keep his character generally the same for 15 years, 20 years, that's impressive to reach the levels that he did without doing that. So that's, I think, the reason. All right, so let's see here. I brought this up during our TakeOver show. During John Cena's 16 World Championship reigns, he was champion for 1,408 days. During Rick's 16 World Championship reigns, he was champion for 3,574 days. Ric Flair was champion 2,166 days more than John Cena. That means Ric Flair was champion 6 years longer than John Cena. So to end the debate, Ric Flair is the GOAT. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, Ric Flair, if you look at in terms of legacy, in terms of impact on the business, it's hard to argue Ric Flair is not the GOAT. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin has said that Ric Flair is his favorite of all time. The impact Ric Flair had on the business is monumental. And John Cena, in his own right, has had a major impact, but in a different way. And Ric Flair was champion for longer, but also it's a different time back then too, where championships didn't change hands regularly. I mean, it was special when championships changed hands, and people were champion for sometimes, in some cases, years and years before a title was dropped. Seriously. I mean, Bruno Sammartino was champion for like 10 years. I may be exaggerating. I have to look, but something insane before they finally had Bruno Sammartino drop the championship. So, all right. I'm pretty sure everyone talked about this, but it sucks what happened to Bianca Belair. She didn't deserve to be buried by an already established superstar. I'll be booing Becky from now on. She turned heel, and I normally like heels, but not her, not like that. Everybody get ready. I have a feeling a takeover is coming soon. Shout out to Kyle from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm officially offering you a spot on the Casual Wrestling crew. Lastly, heel heat is heel heat. Dude. Yeah, I mean, but it's not. Like, you can't tell me all heel heat is created equal. I'm not even going to get into this. This sends me off a deep end, buddy. All right. All heel heat is not created equal. I'll just say that. And I should stop labeling it as heel heat. How about just channel changing heat? Okay. Let's not go down that road. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. All right, buddy. We'll be in touch soon. Yeah, another takeover show is, I feel it coming. I feel it coming too. All right, that's enough of the emails. Emails have been exhausted from patrons and from everybody who wrote in. Thank you. And to the new people, much appreciated. You can contribute as well at realwpodcast@gmail.com if you'd like to be a part of the next mailbag. So that being said, let's take a listen here to our first voicemail. And given that Mr. DJ Kuzmo is a patron of the show, he gets first place here in the mailbag for voicemail. So let's do it right now.
Hello, WWE Podcast World. This is none other than DJ Kuzmo, back at it again on your Mailbag show. I'm recording live on a Tuesday evening, and if you can hear the sound of my voice, you have survived a 3-day weekend of professional wrestling at its finest. I'm talking about SmackDown, the go-home show. I'm talking about AEW and the big return and debut of CM Punk in the United Center in Chicago. I'm talking about SummerSlam this past Saturday in Las Vegas. And I'm talking about, to close off on a Sunday night, the NXT TakeOver 36. But I want to get this off my chest. As much as everybody is pissed off, I am overly pissed off to see that Bianca Belair is no longer our champion. Okay, we get Becky Lynch return, but on a night that you had the champion of SmackDown, the women's champion of SmackDown, Bianca Belair, still being the number one babyface probably in the company right now on the women's division, to see her get squashed by Becky Lynch doesn't make any sense. What is up with you, WWE Creative? What the hell, man? Are you kidding me with this crap that, I thought Becky Lynch was a babyface, now she's a heel? What is this? And the crowd just kind of lost. They got confused. I could see it. And I was like, wait a minute. We all were just cheering for Becky Lynch as she made her return. And now we're like, what? Why, Becky? Why? This doesn't make any sense. And what I remembered, we should all remember, when Becky Lynch was on Monday Night Raw last year, she relinquished her Raw Women's title at the Monday Night Raw, I believe, after WrestleMania. So, in this situation, the booking didn't make any sense. The storyline, or the continuation of the storyline, doesn't make any sense, because I thought that Becky Lynch was on the Raw roster. Now she's on the SmackDown roster? What is this? This makes no complete sense to see Becky Lynch, probably now a heel, squash Bianca Belair. And we could see the crowd just got confused and lost, as much as I did, as much as each and everybody that was in the Discord chat with me was saying, what the hell, WWE? For all the hard work that Bianca Belair had to get to this point. I'm talking about when she made her debut late last year, when she won the Royal Rumble early this year, and she went on that road to WrestleMania to take on Sasha Banks. We were all behind her. We were all, because she had the babyface persona. She had the believability that she could become a future women's champion. And now, after all the months that we have been backing Bianca Belair, to see her get squashed by Becky Lynch, a return of Becky Lynch, doesn't make any sense. And I hope I hope to find out what's going to happen on Friday Night SmackDown, what Bianca Belair is going to say. We still don't know where Sasha Banks is, but this whole Becky Lynch squashing Bianca Belair in probably less than 2 seconds, and this match was as quick as the Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg match. Could you imagine, sidebar, that the Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg match actually went a lot longer than this squash match that we saw with Becky Lynch, probably giving the rock bottom to Bianca Belair? So, I just had to get this off my chest. I'm totally pissed off that Bianca Belair is no longer the champion, but I hope to see where this story goes. And I don't know about y'all, did anybody see on Twitter, on Instagram, that, it's reported, folks, that Becky Lynch has officially turned heel? But we all remember that Becky Lynch was a babyface, the beloved babyface that, she was in that triple threat match with Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. That beloved babyface that we all got behind when she became Becky Two Belts. And now, after all the months that we haven't seen her, for her to come back and then squash Bianca Belair, it just pisses me off that creative took this route And I understand that Sasha Banks, I don't know, maybe she had COVID or maybe something personal or family related that she couldn't attend the SummerSlam. But come on, WWE. You could have at least had Bianca Belair just be in a situation where she doesn't have to face anybody, that they give the automatic victory to Bianca Belair, and probably Becky Lynch comes in but just gives her a face off, and that's it. But now to see that Becky Lynch, of all people, is now the SmackDown Women's Champion, it pisses me off, man. But I hope to see what conspires this coming Friday night on SmackDown. And between SmackDown and Raw, we all know that SmackDown is the better show. Of course, we have the return of Brock Lesnar, now in this situation with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman, you got a lot of explaining to do, my friend. But I want to see what's going to conspire and transpire for this Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair and maybe Sasha Banks. I got to say right now, guys, I hope you have a great week and continue watching some good wrestling, AEW Rampage and AEW Dynamite. And everybody, have a great week. I'll talk to you next time.
Hey, DJ. Wow. A lot to cover here. I mean, nothing I already didn't cover, right? I mean, so I don't know how much I'm going to respond to just because a lot of this is covered in emails and so forth. But sounds like you're not happy about Bianca on a real level. And I'm not either. You know, I think she deserved better. I think you put it nicely. I think, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan did, among others. This was not right. And if this sacrifice of Bianca is just to try to turn Becky heel, bad move. It's a bad move to turn Becky heel anyway. I've said this, so I'm trying not to repeat myself. It's difficult. But, I mean, really, I don't have much to add here. It's a frustrating way for a successful champion to drop their belt just to have Becky turn heel, apparently. Again, a lot of my answers I feel like are a little bit suspect because I haven't seen the follow-up to SmackDown. And if I don't see the follow-up to SmackDown, then I may not be answering things correctly, and perhaps they aren't turning Becky heel. I mean, it seems like they are. It sure seems like they're turning her heel. But if they aren't, then I don't know what the whole thing was about. Oh, let's tear it up, right? Let's blow the roof off this place. And then she, kind of cheap shots her and gets the championship. And it was, I will say this. Bianca needs to grow a pair. What I mean by that is she seems too nice at times. And as much as she is a likable personality, she needs to grow a pair where she stops coming out and just goes, girl, and starts going on her promo. I need her to actually lose it. I need her to go on, it's like a tirade, just come out and just blow a gasket. She's too calm and collected at times. And this is not a case where she needs to do that. So let's see what happens on Friday night. So many unanswered questions, DJ. So many unanswered questions. Certainly a SummerSlam that will not be remembered for its excellent display of the women. Okay? Certainly not. But DJ, thanks as always. I will talk to you next time, and let's get to our next voicemail.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean from Watertown, New York. I want to give my prediction for SummerSlam with Roman Reigns and John Cena. My prediction for that match with Roman Reigns and John Cena is that John Cena wins by disqualification due to interference or something involved with Finn Balor, and Roman Reigns maintains his Universal Championship and walks away champion. And that's my prediction for SummerSlam with Roman Reigns and John Cena.
Hey, Sean. Well, as we all know, we're going to all Monday morning quarterback here, and obviously that did not happen, but that was my pick too, that Finn Balor was going to insert himself into this, but that was not meant to be, and Vince thought better of it and thinking that, well, Brock's a bigger star, we want to end on a bigger note. CM Punk just debuted in AEW. We need to answer that call, and he didn't feel Finn Balor was, I guess, up to the star caliber that he wanted to end on a massive note for SummerSlam. So we got Brock Lesnar and all of his ponytail glory. Thanks, Sean. And cool, you're up from Watertown. You know, a little bit far from where I'm at, but I'm in New York too. So very cool, very cool. Feel free to call back, Sean. Please do. All right, everybody. Let's continue on with the next voicemail.
It's Kyle from Baltimore. I want to talk about the stuff from SummerSlam last night. Was a whirlwind of everything that happened. That was really cool. Becky Lynch coming back and becoming the SmackDown Women's Champion after Sasha was gone was now granted. I know I heard a lot of people didn't like it because it didn't make any sense. I agree, it didn't make any sense, but I thought that when she would come back, she would go to Raw and go face to face with Charlotte. Now that she's the new Raw Women's Champion, but I guess they decided, I think because Sasha wasn't able to compete, they needed to have a big time match for SummerSlam for Bianca, and he chose Becky Lynch, but the match ended in 5 seconds. That was also bizarre, but so I don't know, but I did enjoy it. We'll see what happens on Friday with Becky as champion moving forward again. So I know I liked it. I love Becky a little bit more than Bianca. When it comes to Bianca and Sasha, they're both my favorites. I can't pick between either one, but I just happy that Becky won. We'll see what happens on Friday with her. And yeah, but overall, SummerSlam was a great show. I enjoyed it, but that was it. It's your call.
Kyle, I got to say, you're probably one of the few that actually said you enjoyed that segment with Becky. And that's cool. I'm glad you did. I'm glad that you did, for real. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. If that was your cup of tea and you enjoyed it, well, then that's awesome. For those that are Becky Lynch fans, though, we look at this and say, what the hell just happened? And even more so for Bianca Belair fans. They're looking at this saying, wait, why? She had a great run since WrestleMania, and you're taking her championship from her in 5 seconds for a star that's trying to turn heel that has no business turning heel. For what? Just to make a big SummerSlam moment? Stop it. I'm not telling you to stop it. I'm telling WWE. But Kyle, for real, I'm glad that you enjoyed that. Sasha, as we all know, is your favorite. I don't know where she's at. I've had my guesses. It's COVID, but that's my guess. It's my guess. I have not heard otherwise. The rumor mills are floating everywhere of what it could be, but I don't know. It had to be something serious, though, for them to cancel a big match on a big pay-per-view like that. There had to have been something really big that had happened, and maybe it was COVID. So, all right. Well, Kyle, thank you, and I'll talk to you next week, I hope. Let's get to our next voicemail.
Hey, man, this is The Crisis from Washington State. Been listening a long time. I'll make this quick rant, short, sweet. The rant is not on WWE. The rant is actually on Allegiant Stadium as a whole. My voice is gone because I will get to that point at the very end, but real quick, the problems with WWE SummerSlam were all Allegiant Stadium. For starters, they had a 500-yard Whopper bridge in 100-degree weather for all thousands of people to walk over. It was absolutely insane. I have blisters on the bottoms of my feet. People were passing out from heat exhaustion. Poor planning on the stadium builders, as in how to get the fans into the stadium. Secondly, by the second match, all the point of service stations went down. So in a stadium where you can only have cashless transactions, nobody was allowed to buy food, beer, water, anything, because they could not use their cash that is in their pocket, which is absolutely ridiculous. By the time Drew McIntyre's match was on, I was standing in line over and over and over again. I almost missed Becky Lynch's return, standing in line waiting for food to be able to be purchased. The stadium did, by the fourth or fifth match, start giving away food, soda, and everything for free. However, you cannot give away alcohol in the state. So in the third match, the reason why the crowd was so low was because they were mad, hungry, angry kids, hot, sweaty. Everybody's irritated, and there is no beer sales going on in the stadium whatsoever. That made a huge damper on the crowd, I gotta say. But, some positive. WWE hit it out of the park, and I know you haven't released your review of the show yet, and I already know what everyone's gonna say, how upset they are with the Becky Lynch return. However, for someone like myself who planned this for months and only went to SummerSlam because I was willing to bet the house that Becky Lynch was returning, I, for one, am excited. I'm stoked. My voice still hasn't came back, and I just want to give a huge shout out to WWE and for the record, all wrestling promotions, every single one of them, for such an amazing, epic weekend across the board. But seriously, do some research. A lot of the problems with the show, they need to go onto Allegiant Stadium. I, for one, will never go to another show at Allegiant Stadium. The Crisis from Washington State. I gotta get you back with a few more rant points. For one, for the first time in my wrestling fandom career, I found myself rooting for Bobby Lashley. Yeah, I was rooting for him because I will say this, Goldberg, trash. Absolute trash. The match was trash. His moves were trash. He was trash. He has no business being in the ring anymore, and I hope to God I never have to see him on my screen again. Also, they did it right with Brock Lesnar because much reminiscent of the Miami Heat game, the playoff game when Ray Allen hit the shot and all the fans were on the outside of the stadium trying to make their way in. That's exactly what happened at SummerSlam. Good kudos to the production team on the time that they waited for Brock Lesnar's music to hit because people were already hitting the exits. When that music hit, that is one of my top 5 moments I've ever experienced of all time. Right up there with the Royal Rumble and Edge being there. Oh, man, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, hey, there's some good positives to the show. All in all, I am so happy with my life decisions in going to Las Vegas because, hey, we know what's coming. We know what's happening. That may just be one of the last big events that we're able to attend for a while. COVID-19, Delta variant, blah, 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 willing. Either way, big shout out to you. Big shout out to Mimi. Big shout out to the whole crew. I love you guys, and I've been listening to your show for a while now. You actually got me into listening to podcasts at all, and I'm contemplating starting my own wrestling podcast called WW. I don't know. I haven't thought that hard. It's basically What the Fuck Wrestling, and hey, either way, you guys are amazing. Can't wait to hear your review. Can't wait to hear the rest of the program for the rest of the week. And, hey, Samoa Joe, champion again. We'll talk about that another day. Have a great one. Peace. The Crisis from Washington State with one last little piece because I just want to get you all this info, in time for your show. But I got to say this strictly as a Becky Lynch fan. Becky Lynch is the wrestler that got me back into wrestling from the get-go. And to see her come back the way she did, a lot of people are going to be upset, but I'll tell you this, she could have came back any single way, and I wouldn't have cared. The blisters on the bottom of my feet from walking across that bridge, the heat exhaustion of almost passing out when I got to the gate, the no beer, the no food, the absolutely ridiculous idea that you cannot spend actual money currency in the stadium, all of it, none of it mattered, because all that mattered to me was that I was there when the man came back around to WWE. I have my Becky Lynch garbage pail socks on. I have my Becky Lynch mugshot t-shirt on. I was screaming and excited. I was razzing the John Cena 9-year-old fan next to me, the whole 9 yards. All of it. None of it mattered, because the greatest thing that happened to me and the greatest experience I had is I was one of those people that was there when Becky Lynch showed back up, knocked some heads off, took the title, and went back home. Yeah, You guys do a great job on your podcast. A really, really good job. Hope to catch your show and everything, and hey, just keep doing what you do. I'd love to be a guest on your show one of these times, man. I'm always feel like I'm talking to you and all your other hosts while you're doing the show. It's hilarious. But, yeah, Names of the Crisis, Washington State. Y'all stay up. Have a great show. Peace.
Oh, well, the Crisis. I like that. We've got a casual wrestling fan. We've got the Crisis. We've got a DJ. Man, we really are a very diverse and inclusive community, aren't we? I got to say. But Crisis, thank you for your in-person, impromptu observations about Allegiant Stadium. Obviously, at home, we have no clue. We're sitting in our comfortable living rooms, drinking your beverage of choice, sitting on the couch with our feet up. And the biggest strain that we have to deal with is, am I hungry? Do I have enough energy to go to the fridge? Or, can I make it to the bathroom? While you guys are stranded in or you have to walk across a 500-yard bridge, you said, to get from, I'm assuming, the parking lot to the stadium. I've never been there, but in blazing heat, yikes, buddy. That's awful. And then the points of sale, the little terminals, I guess, where you get your food and drink went down and they didn't accept cash. What? I guess we really are all contactless, cashless people now. Again, the microchip is coming. A lot of people think that's like the mark of the beast or something, where the microchip is going to be implanted into your hand or your head or wherever, and that's how you're going to have to pay for things and that kind of thing. But we're headed that way, right? We're headed that way. And it seems like it was not a pleasant experience from that end, which obviously isn't WWE's fault. That's the management of Allegiant Stadium. And it's also a home to the NFL team. The Raiders, right? Was it the Raiders or maybe? Yeah. So I can't imagine attending anything there that would be that kind of service and that kind of environment. No, thank you. I'm glad that you're such a fan of Becky Lynch too. Certainly, I'm glad you enjoyed her return. I have no problem with her returning. I have no problem with her reaction. You guys gave her a very nice reaction. Very good. Very, very positive. But you have to look at who's being affected by this. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed Becky's return, but what about the effect it had on Bianca Belair and what they've done to her career right now? It's not in shambles, but you took a really good run and had it over in a second. Very little fanfare. It was from a Bianca Belair standpoint is the problem I had with it. And it was a bit of a mess anyway. That's not how I would have re-debuted Becky Lynch. A bit of a mess of a program, a segment, but you trashing the Goldberg match. Yeah, that was not good at all. I have some news for you though. Unfortunately, this program is continuing, so you'll get to bless yourself with that presence of Goldberg once again. But I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate the kind words. Certainly, you're welcome to call in anytime. And maybe we can schedule a little one-on-one time for a podcast. Certainly. But reach out, realwwepodcast@gmail.com. You know the deal. You've been listening for a while. You know how to contact me, just as everybody does. So, Crisis, thank you so much for your contributions this week. Looking forward to you next week, perhaps. So, all right, everybody, let's continue on. We're about to wrap things up.
Hey, Matt, it's Kyle from New York again. And first off, let me say, SummerSlam was it was something. I enjoyed the Brock Lesnar return. I enjoyed the Becky Lynch return, but I am so pissed off about what happened with Sasha and Bianca Belair. With Sasha not being there. I guess that. I know she's made personal issues. I don't know. Maybe something happened in the family. Maybe someone in her family has COVID. Maybe she has COVID. I'm guessing she has COVID. That's all I think. I feel bad for Bianca Belair. Every time we get an NXT talent, we're like, oh, maybe Vince is hope. Maybe we should have hope. Maybe Vince is into them, and then something like this happens. Bianca Belair, we really thought, wow, Vince is trying to push an NXT star to the limit. He's really into this person. And then she got Kofi Kingston. She got Brock Lesnar to Kofi Kingston. That's really what she got. And, that's my first thoughts. Everything else in the show I pretty much liked, except what wasn't even right. I was garbage. So you probably talked about some of this already because I listened to all your shows today. The day you upload all the ones that weren't working with Spreaker and stuff. I didn't listen to your Raw review yet. You literally just uploaded it a few minutes ago. But anyway, I don't know if you've heard. There's rumors going around that we might get Roman Reigns defending the title against Finn Balor at Extreme Rules, and then he'll defend against Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel. We also might be getting Bobby Lashley defending a rematch with Goldberg at Crown Jewel. What are your thoughts on that? Bobby and Goldberg, I'm scared Goldberg's going to win and Big E's going to cash in. That's what I'm scared of. And, yeah, I'm nervous about that. I think Brock can actually beat Roman, too. That's also I'm a little nervous about. What are your thoughts on that? Also, I know you don't keep up NXT that much. The NXT TakeOver 36 was amazing. And I don't know if you heard, Ilja Dragunov versus Walter for the NXT UK Championship at TakeOver. Everyone's saying it's match of the year. I agree. 5-star match. If you don't watch the whole TakeOver match, I recommend at least watching that match. It was amazing. Best match of the night. Best match of the year so far. Anyway, my 3 minutes are almost up, so that's it for me. And as always, thanks, and I'll talk to you next week.
Hey, Kyle. So thank you for the recommendation. I've gotten that a couple of times now. Again, with the NXT deal, I don't watch a whole lot of it, but certainly I will make time to watch it. You don't hear people talking about 5-star matches that often and match of the year candidate that often. So Dragunov versus Walter, I will be checking out. That sounds worth the time, certainly. So thank you. And yeah, I've heard that too about Finn Balor, but that scares me too. Nobody wants this to be delayed till Crown Jewel. I think most fans don't enjoy the Crown Jewel pay-per-view unless you're in Saudi Arabia, because again, it feels like a off the beaten path pay-per-view. And a lot of people also with the controversy with Saudi Arabia don't, out of protest, watch the show for, because of just controversy. I'll leave it there. This isn't a political podcast. So just because of controversy about that, I'll be very general. So people protest it, and it's just not a generally well-received pay-per-view, other than one of the best moments out of the whole thing was probably Titus World Slide. I mean, we did get Titus World Slide out of the Greatest Royal Rumble. So we did get that. But I have heard about Goldberg, and as far as him facing Bobby Lashley again, I think that's a shoo-in. I hope it's, or maybe at Crown Jewel, but if it's Roman and Brock at Crown Jewel, oh boy. I mean, I could see, I really wonder how many zeros they're paying WWE. Like, how many zeros are on that check? It's got to be just a stupid amount of money. All right, thanks, Kyle. And let's get to our final voicemails. Actually, there's 2 of them. Looks like back-to-back. But they look like they're from Justin from Maryland. So let's end it with Justin and see what he's got to say.
Hey, man, it's Justin from Maryland. Hope all is well with you. I just wanted to touch on SummerSlam and what's moving forward. So I can't agree with you. The pay-per-view was bizarre. I was definitely confused. I loved it, but some things had me confused. I was kind of disappointed in the Seth Rollins loss, because on SmackDown, Edge showered him with blood. So, normally when one person gets the one up on a show before, the other person wins. So I was kind of confused when Seth Rollins didn't win, but maybe they're going to continue this program. So just want your thoughts on that. I definitely enjoyed the Brock Lesnar return. I think we all wanted him to return and face Lashley, but then again, you can't really have him go against anybody without a talker unless Paul Heyman is involved. So I'm guessing that maybe they're going to have Roman and Brock face off at Crown Jewel, because Extreme Rules really isn't a major pay-per-view. Plus, we forgot about Finn Balor. So where do you think Finn Balor is going to play into all this? I'm sure we'll find out more on SmackDown, but where do you think that is going to go? Do you think Roman's going to face Finn at Extreme Rules and then against Brock? Another thing before the time was up. We know that the Money in the Bank doesn't really mean anything at this point. Nikki won it. won the title, then just lost the title. So I think we can all agree on that, but I'm glad that Charlotte won. So thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon. Hey, it's Justin from Maryland again. I just wanted to quickly touch on the Becky Lynch situation. So, last week I had already saw reports that the Sasha and Bianca match possibly would not happen at SummerSlam. So, I already had suspicions on that, but I was really surprised when Becky came back because I actually missed it. Like when she actually came out, I was watching the pay-per-view, but I missed when she came out. So I was like, okay, they're going to have a good match. But she basically turned heel and won the title, and I saw reports that she actually asked to be booked as a heel. So I feel like that's interesting, and it shows that SmackDown is definitely on a different level than Raw. Maybe, when the draft comes, they'll shake it up, but SmackDown has all the stars. They just got Becky and Brock. They got Edge, Roman, and then it's possible that they'll get Drew when the shake-up. So that just shows that SmackDown is definitely on a different level than Raw right now, but things will definitely get interesting. And I'm glad that we're getting all these returns, CM Punk, Lesnar, like, wrestling is back, and it's good that we get to experience it after missing fans for almost a year. So that's all I wanted to say, man. I can't wait to hear your response, and I'll talk to you next week.
Hey there, Justin. Great way to end the show here. Good to hear your voice. Hope all's well with you, too. Let me go through some things here you mentioned. Let's see, I wrote them down here. Where does Finn Balor play in all this? Probably it could be the next pay-per-view. And we may not see, as the previous caller said, we may not see Brock and Roman until Crown Jewel. And Finn is the interim guy. It's very possible. I think Finn does have a part to play here. He's been absent the last several weeks. So that tells me he should be interjecting himself, given that he was screwed out of the contract the last time. The Showered in Blood segment. This is something I didn't mention in my weekend review, that I thought it was a cool segment, but again, if he was showered in black goo, which whatever. I mean, I don't have any issue with it per se. Suddenly Edge has superpowers is kind of weird, but whatever, it's pro wrestling. You're right though. The typical rule of thumb is that the person getting the advantage on the show before the pay-per-view takes the loss. But I've said that, and again, I'm not always right. Certainly not. I'm more wrong than not. But that's a general rule of thumb. It's not a hard and fast rule. So this is one of those exceptions to the rule. I'd say it's about 75% true. So I'm not surprised that Edge won. He needs a win, though. Edge hasn't got a big victory in a long time. When's the last time Edge got a big victory? Right? When's the last time? Against Randy Orton on Raw? So it's been a long time. Edge needed this. Seth can bounce back. Edge will go back into hiding for a little while until he comes back out for, I don't know, maybe Survivor Series or something. Okay, SmackDown getting all the stars. Yes, it has. SmackDown does have all the stars. I think the shakeup will help this out, help balance things out. But as it stands currently, SmackDown, which was already a strong show, just got stronger. And Raw is still left out there, a barren wasteland. It needs help. And yet they give the two biggest returning stars to Raw or to SmackDown. So, yeah. And then you look at The Rock, who's scheduled apparently, allegedly, to come back in the late fall to set up a program with Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns is on SmackDown, and presumably he's going to stay on SmackDown, and The Rock would then join him on SmackDown. So SmackDown continues to lay the SmackDown on Raw, while Raw is just out there kind of floundering right now, for sure. So, Justin, thank you for your calls, and I hope you call in next week, just as I hope everybody calls in. And if you want that number, that call-in number, well, you can't have it. No. It's 518-952-0247. So, thank you, everybody. Perfect timing as my voice is about to go out. Thank you for all of the emails and the voicemails. And feel free to send in your emails, voicemails, because I will be able to contribute, or I will be able to get you on the show next time. So thank you, everybody. This concludes our week of WWE SummerSlam, at least from my perspective. You won't hear my voice again until week in review, Sunday night. So I get a few nights off. 3 nights off. I don't have to record. It's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. As always, I'll talk to you next time.